But going into the next story, this was something that I found very, very interesting, is Haider Ackermann becoming the first creative director of Canada Goose. Now, before I even read this article, because we're going to go through this Vogue Business article, I want to know what you guys think about this appointment. Hey, let's see what people are saying about Haider Ackermann at Canada Goose. Random AF. Haider finna have the girls in puffer summer dresses. I was astonished by this announcement. This is a monumental waste of Haider Ackermann's talent. It's clear Canada Goose is trying to compete with Montclair. That's a really strong point, you know. That's a really good point and something I was going to touch on later. So Brie, that's very strong point there about the compete with Montclair. Very, very strong point. Haider thing is weird, but all these brands are weird nowadays. Donatella Versace for H&M creative director next. Haider doing side missions. Yeah, we're going to read the article and then I'm going to give my thoughts at the end of it. So this article is via Vogue Business, written by Lucy Maguire, who writes a lot of really good articles for Vogue Business. So it says, Haider Ackermann named creative director of Canada Goose. The unexpected appointment follows a suite of luxury tie-ins at Canada Goose as it tries to retain market share in the booming outerwear space, which is very, very, very interesting. Every brand is just fighting to be richer and richer and richer. And it feels like almost we're at this kind of like peak of just luxury everything, where everyone is fighting for this tiny crumb of market share. But anyway, continuing the article, it says, Haider Ackermann has been appointed as the first ever creative director of premium outerwear brand Canada Goose, the company announced today. The Colombian-born French designer, better known for avant-garde luxury fashion and his eponymous label, will oversee all creative at the outerwear brand, which specializes in heavy-duty Goose down parka jackets. He will be based in Paris and work alongside Canada Goose chairman and CEO Dani Reiss to guide the company into its next era, the brand said. What drew me to Canada Goose is not only how they have created a category, but also its authentic reputation and drive to stay committed to its purpose. The impact this brand has had on the world around us is meaningful and inspirational, Ackermann said in a statement. Haider Ackermann is so media trained. That was such a perfect media trained answer. I love that for Haider. Continuing the article, it says, to mark the appointment, Ackermann has released a special Canada Goose hoodie in 4 colorways, retailing at $275 in support of non-profit Polar Bears International, PBI. The designer announced the hoodie on his Instagram with a campaign featuring himself and the longtime climate advocate, Jane Fonda. His first full capsule collection will be released in October, according to the brand. High-performance outerwear is a far cry from Ackermann's luxury roots, but the designer's eponymous label has stalled in recent years. The website closed in 2021, except for his high-profile celebrity dressing of names like Timothée Chalamet and Tilda Swinton. And this isn't Ackermann's first foray into performance wear. Since rolling back his own brand in November 2022, he collaborated with Fila on a sportswear collection and an accompanying show in Manchester, England. I remember that actually. That was really big. For Canada Goose, this long-term appointment follows a suite of luxury collaborations, including Marc Jacobs' Y Project, Junya Watanabe and Vetements, as the brand aims to compete in the booming outerwear market amid growing competition from challenger brands. So let's see what they say their competition is, like Arc'teryx and even techwear players such as Stone Island and CP Company. That's very, very interesting that they're competing with Stone Island, CP Company, and Arc'teryx. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. But anyway, to continue, it says, when it comes to the marriage of craftsmanship and beauty, there's no one more fitting than Haider Ackermann, said Canada Goose's Reiss in a statement. He intuitively understands Canada Goose as a brand apart from all others. And that authenticity, craftsmanship, and performance are the cornerstones of our brand. With his distinct ability to harness the energy and potential of our authentic heritage, I look forward to seeing his impact across our designs. So very, very interesting. Like it was mentioned in the article, it's very much a far cry from what we know Haider Ackermann to be. We know Haider Ackermann for, of course, his brand. We know Haider Ackermann for things like Baluti. Um, so this is very, very different. I find it really weird, going back to kind of what Bree said earlier. The point I wanted to make about this whole appointment was I thought that Canada Goose were really trying to compete with Moncler just by the collaborations they've been doing, whether it's Junya Watanabe and all that stuff. Also to do with like kind of where they sit in the markets and the kind of products they make. I really thought they were competing with Moncler because Moncler has creative fashion on a chokehold when it comes to that kind of ski wear, performance wear, outerwear, puffer jackets. Moncler Genius, I'm a huge fan of Moncler Genius. I always have been. I think they tap the right designers every time. I think they always do very interesting things with down, whether it's Pio Paolo making these really lovely Moncler puffer dresses, or Matthew Williams making these techwear looking puffer jackets. So I always thought that Moncler did something interesting. I thought by bringing someone in like Haider Ackermann that comes from more of a, avant-garde, more like fashion specific lens, I thought that's what they're going for. But in the article, them saying that they're competing with like Arc'teryx and Stone Island, they have no chance. That is not. Stone Island is so innovative in so many different ways. I don't see any way that the audience for Stone Island would stop buying Stone Island and would instead buy Canada Goose. I just can't see that. Like, a lot of people appreciate Stone Island because they literally develop new fabrics, develop new ways of dyeing, develop like they're so innovative, that brand. And obviously CP Company kind of just enjoys the remnants of the innovation of Stone Island. So I just don't see that. And then Arc'teryx is just like, obviously Arc'teryx is performance wear, but Arc'teryx is so fashion right now. And people don't view Canada Goose as that fashionable compared to Arc'teryx or Stone Island. Like, people wear Stone Island for style and fashion and not because, it's cold outside. People wear, the only two types of people I see wearing Canada Goose, and I'm not even trying to be stereotypical, is either people who live in a really cold place and they just want something expensive to flex, or people that just want to flex. Like, the kids I see wearing Canada Goose jackets are normally either rich kids that aren't the most stylish people in the world, or people that sell drugs that want to flex that they have an expensive puffer jacket. So I feel like that audience is very, very different to like Stone Island and CB Company and Arc'teryx. I think a better strategy would be trying to take market share from Moncler and the North Face rather than Stone Island, CP Company, and Arc'teryx. I think, to me at least, that's the wrong direction to go. I love how much money Moncler have as well, because they actually spend bread on installations. Yeah, Moncler have some of the most interesting shows ever. I was very lucky enough. I covered Moncler's last anniversary show, which was amazing. It was in Milan. I was there. It was during Milan Fashion Week a few years ago. That was iconic. They had the show in London, the Moncler Genius installation, where they had loads of big time singers performing, and it was huge, one of the biggest events in London that year. So yeah, I don't know. I just think then they're just never going to compete with Moncler. Sorry, they're never going to compete with Stern Island, CB Company, and Arc'teryx. I think they'll have a tough time competing with Moncler. But they could try if they get the right collaborations and tap the right designers. I don't see why that can't happen, and I don't see why they can't make Canada Goose more fashion specific and fashion focused. But yeah, I think the strategy is a bit wrong. Stone Island clothes and a Linea Rossa beanie was 90s/early thousands trapper uniform. Moncler in a league of their own in the scene, in my opinion. I was at the Moncler event in London. It was insane. Yeah, I didn't make it to that event, but I heard really, really good things. I heard really, really good things at that event. But yeah, it was very interesting just to see Haider Ackermann, because it's funny because obviously Haider Ackermann has kind of been like a free agent for a while. Haider Ackermann did obviously that collection with Jean-Paul Gaultier that was very interesting. And because of that collection, that couture collection that he did at JPG, a lot of people started speculating every time there's a new opening. I even think this Givenchy creative director role, I've seen a few people put Haider Ackermann's name forward for that. So it's just so interesting. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, Haider Ackermann is the creative director of Canada Goose. that was so random. Like it was so unexpected. But I think it's exciting. It's kind of different, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does that. And I hope they're paying him a lot of money. I can only imagine he's getting a very healthy payday from Canada Goose. Human You says the Jean Paul Gaultier collab is exactly why this is disappointing. Like someone said, a waste of his talent and skill. I guess let's see. Let's see. I like to just see how things unfold. Let's see if he can bring some excitement to Canada Goose. The way Moncler is quite exciting sometimes. So let's just see. Bree says, I think the investors are too comfortable with Riccardo Tisci's version of Givenchy to consider a dissimilar designer for the brand. Yeah, I mean, they tried. They tried. Claire White Keller's aesthetic is very different to Riccardo Tisci, and that didn't work. Then they tried to go with Matthew Williams, who kind of is closer to the kind of aesthetic that Riccardo Tisci has, and that also didn't work. So at this point, it's just like what would work at Givenchy? I think they just need to keep trying. To be honest, I like Haider Ackermann, but I just don't care. He is in trouble with his brand, so let the guy make some money. Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that obviously his brand was going through some times of financial difficulties, which is why the brand almost like is basically effectively shut down at this point. Um, so yeah, let him make money, let his talents flow across the industry, whether it's a Jean Paul Gaultier thing or it's a Canada Goose here or there. Um, so yeah, it'll be great to see. So Al, I'm not sure when you joined the stream, but I'd like to get your thoughts on like all the other like topics. Like, what did you think of Haider Ackermann being the creative director of Canada Goose?
Yeah, on that, I think when it was announced on Twitter, I actually sent you a DM on Instagram because I was
Yeah, I
just
remember.
falling over laughing
I
at
remember.
like the announcement. I don't know if it was out of shock or whatever. My like point of before even we thought of that Gamay Blue for Montclair analog, I was just thinking of like it as a comparison to like what Martine Rose is doing at Clark's, where she's the creative director of Clark's, which really means she puts out a capsule now and then, right?
Yeah,
Not affecting the mainline items that are found in like the malls and stuff. And it's like a halo effect sort of thing. Like,
mm,
I don't think necessarily it'll lead to like the product getting either better designed or more fashion forwards. And I think the thing that really disappointed me the most was in the initial capsule for the announcement of the collaboration. Instead of it being just like a designed hoodie, it was specifically with the word mark of his defunct ready to wear line
yeah,
as part of the print on the sleeve, and that to me just felt totally off. Right,
yeah,
like, that is something you kinda do for, like, a collaboration, like, with Nike, whatever, you kinda put your initials on it. But this sort of, like, kind of marketing of him and putting him front and center as, like, I guess, almost as, the celebrity, it just kind of
yeah.
I don't know if it reeks of desperation, but it just feels like they're coming at it from the wrong angle. I don't think they're gonna make it like Montclair Genius. I don't think they're gonna make it like, Tom Brown's Gamma Blue line. It
Yeah.
just doesn't feel like it's gonna be anything but transactional and temporary, which I think doesn't serve the brand.
So you don't think in any sense, because sometimes with these collaborations, when there's a creative director, even if they're designing capsule collections, the brand will watch closely and see if there are any elements that they can like almost steal from those capsule collections and bring into like the wider market of the products that they make for the wider market.
I think that could be the case if you had like a more vertically integrated company. But I think,
Hmm.
with a lot of these companies, you'll just literally see a different factory somewhere else in Italy that makes just that line, right?
That's
And
really weird.
it's just the time stream just never crosses because what they're asking for as a product is usually so distanced from the kind of production lines of their main product that it doesn't really, I think, affect the same teams.
Yeah,
And that's where I think like the issue is, and where like it never feels like they get anywhere with like these collaborations. And for like mass market, I'm not saying Canada Goose is mass market. They still have like I think an air of some degree of luxury. Their outerwear, their big ticket items. But once you kind of go more mass market, it's really, really hard to pull back from that. And you get, of course, like the most well known horror story is Raph at Calvin Klein, who did such a good job and really made a big dent in the fashion community. People loved what he was doing, but just I think it was executive teams who were selling, underwear in Macy's that did not
Mm,
see the point in putting the hundreds of millions of dollars and
right.
renovating all these properties and trying to appeal to something that they felt that they didn't have a halo effect from. That the people who would buy the RAF line wouldn't touch the other collections. It just wouldn't be necessarily the correct audience for them.
But
I
I
And
still
think
do think that those things were overpriced too. I think that was another issue.
to me, I don't think necessarily overpricing a designer line is an issue. Like people who buy Polo don't necessarily
Mm,
gawk at the prices of Purple Label. It just isn't the same customer
mm.
base. And to me, like I think if it was just an element of oh, it's unaffordable, it's unattainable, um, and that not being in line with I guess what people assumed Calvin Klein was from like the 90s, as if they were like the Gap or
Yeah.
something. I don't think necessarily that that was the same audience, right?
I think though
Yeah, I
these
mean,
kind of things. Oh, sorry, I'll let you go.
no, say what you're gonna say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think these kind of things, even though Raf at Calvin Klein didn't work out long term, I think it, from a fashion perspective, it was great for their image. Like, I
Mhm.
think it made us as a fashion crowd take Calvin Klein 100 times more seriously, and perhaps, I guess, maybe that's what Canada Goose are trying to do here. I don't actually think, even though when I first saw it, I was a bit confused, and like I think I sent it to Aya with like a bunch of question marks, like, but I don't actually think it's stupid. Like I think like they might as well try it because it's very possible that they change our perception of Canada Goose, which then will ultimately trickle down into the wider market one way or another. Because whatever happens in fashion always finds a way to trickle down. Like if the fashion crowd are into something, whether
Yeah,
it'll
I
be
think
worth the money or not is up for debate. But
I guess I'm
Mhm.
struggling, I think, to identify the last time that that worked for like a company where it was kind of mass market and pivoted out of it. Um, and to me, like I think most of their success that I associate with like, oh, people are talking about the brand and it's getting more engagement and social media channels outside of the fashion kind of crowd. Was after actually they dropped Raf and they did the My Calvin's campaign where like they were bringing in
Yeah,
all these celebrities and like doing the
the Kim
workman
Kardashian one and like ASAP Rocky and all that.
like let's put Frank Ocean in underwear. Okay, works.
My
That's what they expect
Calvin's.
out of the brand, and that's how they want to engage with it. Yes, Mike Calvin's that campaign exactly.
Yeah.
And the I think engagement with Calvin Klein maybe reached the jeans line because I think they redesigned the word mark for that with the all caps instead of like the lowercase. But I don't see any of the DNA of Raph's like vision of Americana like seeping into like
oh, okay. I didn't
the
mean
clothes
DNA.
after
I just
2000.
meant
I
I
just
just
don't
meant
see that.
general perception. I feel like from that period onwards, the general perception of Calvin Klein was on an incline.
Do you know, Michael, before Raf Simmons at Calvin Klein, do you know what I used to see Calvin Klein as? You know, when I was
What?
younger,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
buy Calvin Klein boxes and then I'd like wear my shirt that's just cropped enough so that you could see like the
Man wanted it coming through like sexy
Yeah, hell
underwear,
yeah.
fam.
just so you could. That's like what I used to do when I was like 13, bro. Like wear the boxers way too high.
Oh hell yeah! I mean, no, he invented that though, right? He invented like the idea of designer underwear in the same way that like Diesel invented designer jeans. Like it was an
Yeah,
innovation.
No,
yeah.
no, I feel you, I feel you. Because I feel like, okay, maybe I'm reaching here. Hear me out. But I feel like even the pull they had to pull some of the people they pulled for my Calvins was because we as a fashion crowd had that slightly better perception of Calvin Klein. That's why I feel like that's why they were able to suddenly then just pull a whole ASAP Rocky. Like they even had even and this was at a time when like I mean, ASAP Rocky's always been a fashion guy, but I remember really clearly other rappers who he was close with at the time were even posting pictures at the time, like mocking him a bit, like, "Oh, come on, mate! Like, what are you doing? Why are you posting up in these boxes?" So I feel like a lot of the, I don't know, I just feel like a lot of the reception of Calvin Klein has been on the up since Raf was there. So I remember even like last year or the year before, they did that Palace collab. So that I feel like they're a lot more integrated into like different levels of fashion, whether it's down to like streetwear or into like luxury, and maybe Canada Goose are looking to do that. What I will say as well is, at the end of the day, even though we're calling Canada Goose more mass market, it doesn't change the fact that it's expensive. Canada Goose isn't like something people just stroll in and just casually buy. You don't wake up and say, "Oh,
it's definitely expensive." I just think, because obviously Haider Ackermann is associated with the fashion crowd, and when you think of puffer jackets that are fashionable, I don't think anyone thinks of Canada Goose. Like when you think of fashion people, when they want to buy a puffer jacket, it's either Rick Owens or Tom Brown or like, I don't know, Moncler or Moncler Genius. It's always like those kind of brands. So you never really hear of Canada Goose in like the fashion space.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more adjacent to like, I guess, upper class like lifestyle branding, right? Like kind of adjacent to like more North Face, Lululemon, Active, or cold weather stuff. But just because it's associated with a high ticket item doesn't mean, I think, that there's any sort of fashion pull at it. And
but at least it being associated with a high ticket, at least it being associated with as a high ticket item means that their current consumer base can afford whatever he decides to put out on any level. Whether they'll like it or not and go out and buy it, that's a different question. But at least they know for certain they'll be able to afford it, which is different from like.
Yeah, but like. No, that's a great comment. Hey, I'm one of those people. I actually own a Calvin Klein's jeans T-shirt. I'm one of those people.
Said I'm one of this. Oh, you're not.
Word Mark T. It's around it's around here somewhere. It's a word Mark T for Calvin Klein jeans.
Oh, do not claim it. You do not hit on women old enough to be their children, Al. You do not.
Definitely not one of the unks. Definitely not one of the unks.
Al, to clarify, I was saying that he's one of those people that owns the shirt, not one of the African uncles that does the rest. Oh my word, that was funny.
Nah, it's an interesting undertaking for sure. I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it might be like parallel to what Ferrari's doing, right? Where like they just may have a high ticket item and they can sell ready to wear next to it.
What item does Ferrari sell?
Ferrari has a ready to wear line. They have like flagship stores in Milan and such. You can buy like a flight bodysuit. You can do all sorts of stuff with Ferrari.
I feel like Puma are trying to pivot into that lane Ferrari's in already with all these like undertakings they've been doing recently.
And like the big shows and stuff, and like they've invested heavily in like the Rihanna stuff again. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.